The snow fell gently on the busy downtown street, each flake catching the warm glow of the streetlights. Emma sat on the cold stone steps outside the old theater, her violin case open beside her. The music box, inside, held only a few crumpled dollar bills and some loose change, not nearly enough for what she needed. She drew her bow across the strings, letting the melody flow into the winter evening. The notes danced through the air, weaving between the sounds of car engines and footsteps on wet pavement. Emma played, with her heart pouring every emotion into each note. This was her sanctuary. This was where she felt alive. But tonight felt different. Tonight, the weight of her problems pressed down on her shoulders like the heavy coat she couldn't afford to replace. Her grandmother's medical bills were piling up. The small apartment they shared was getting colder each day because they couldn't pay the heating bill. And tomorrow, the landlord expected rent money that Emma simply didn't have. People walked past her in endless streams. Businessmen in expensive suits, their phones pressed to their ears. Couples holding hands, lost in their own worlds. Families hurrying to warm restaurants. They all moved with purpose, with places to go and people waiting for them. Emma played louder, hoping someone might stop, hoping someone might hear not just her music, but the desperation behind it. A few people dropped coins without breaking their stride. Others pretended not to see her at all. She had become invisible, just another part of the city landscape that people learned to ignore. The melody she played was one her grandmother had taught her years ago. It was a song about hope, about believing that tomorrow could be better than today. But as the evening grew darker and her violin case remained nearly empty, that hope felt as fragile as the snowflakes melting on her instrument. A young woman about Emma's age walked by, talking loudly on her phone about weekend plans at an expensive ski resort. She didn't even glance in Emma's direction. An elderly couple slowed down for a moment, and Emma's heart lifted with hope. But they simply adjusted their shopping bags and continued on their way. Emma's fingers were getting numb from the cold. The violin strings felt stiff, and her bow wasn't gliding as smoothly as it should. She thought about packing up and going home, but home offered no solutions. Only more worry and another sleepless night wondering how she would take care of the woman who had raised her. She closed her eyes and played the next song even more passionately. This one was her own composition, something she had written during the hardest times. It spoke of loneliness, of feeling forgotten in a world that moved too fast to notice individual struggles. The music flowed from a place deep inside her, raw and honest. Then she heard footsteps slow down, different from the usual hurried pace of the other pedestrians. These steps were measured, thoughtful. Emma opened her eyes to see a man in an elegant dark coat standing a few feet away. He wasn't rushing like everyone else. He was actually listening. The man appeared to be in his 30s with kind eyes and an air of quiet confidence. In his arms, he held a small bundle wrapped in a soft blanket, a baby sleeping peacefully despite the noise of the city around them. The contrast struck Emma immediately. This man, who clearly had means, who could afford the finest things, had stopped to listen to her music while carrying something infinitely more precious than any material possession. He didn't speak at first. He simply stood there, letting the music wash over him and his sleeping child. Emma found herself playing differently somehow. The notes became warmer, more hopeful. There was something about his presence that made her feel less alone. When she finished the song, the man stepped closer. His expression was thoughtful, almost sad, in a way that Emma couldn't quite understand. "That was beautiful," he said softly, careful not to disturb the baby in his arms. "You have real talent." Emma managed a small smile. "Thank you. That means a lot." The man was quiet for a moment, studying her face. Then he said something that surprised her. "My wife used to play violin. She had the same passion in her eyes that you do, the same way of making the music come alive." He paused, looking down at the sleeping baby. She passed away 6 months ago. Car accident. I've been raising our daughter alone since then. Emma felt her heart clench with sympathy. I'm so sorry. For your loss. I haven't been able to listen to violin music since then, he continued. It hurt too much. But tonight, walking past here with Sarah, something made me stop. You're playing. It reminded me why my wife loved it so much. It reminded me of the beauty she saw in the world. The man reached into his coat and pulled out his wallet. But instead of dropping a few bills into her case, he did something unexpected. He wrote something on the back of a business card and handed it to her. My name is David Mitchell, he said. I run a music foundation that helps young artists. We provide scholarships, performance opportunities, mentorship. I'd like you to audition for our program. Emma stared at the card, hardly believing what she was hearing. I don't understand. You have something special, David said gently. Something that can't be taught. Raw talent, yes, but more than that. You have the ability to make people feel. That's rare. He reached into his wallet again and handed her several $100s. This is for tonight, for whatever you need right now. But the real opportunity is that audition. The program provides a monthly stipend, performance venues, and connections in the music world. It could change your life. Emma felt tears welling up in her eyes. Why? Why would you do this for me? David looked down at his sleeping daughter again. Because my wife would have wanted me to. She always said that music was meant to be shared, meant to lift people up. Tonight, your music lifted me up. It reminded me that there's still beauty in the world, even after loss. He adjusted the blanket around his baby daughter. And maybe someday, when Sarah is older, she'll want to learn violin. If she does, I'll tell her about the young woman who played in the snow and reminded her father that music can heal hearts. As David walked away, disappearing into the snowy evening with his precious cargo, Emma sat in stunned silence. She looked at the business card in her trembling hands, then at the money he had given her. Enough to pay the rent, enough to keep the heat on, enough to buy her grandmother's medication. But more than that, he had given her something she thought she had lost. Hope. Emma packed up her violin with careful, reverent hands. Tomorrow she would call the number on the card. Tomorrow she would take the first step toward a different future. Tonight, she would go home and tell her grandmother that sometimes, when you think the world has forgotten you, one person can remind you that you matter. The snow continued to fall as Emma walked home, but it no longer felt cold. It felt like possibility.